request for additional meeting at 7:50. Well, that doesn't mean we're gonna add 10 minutes at the end of the meeting. So we're live streaming the meeting on NBTC's YouTube channel. Staff have worked diligently over the last month. This is a script I was given by staff, by the way. So staff worked diligently over the last month with the building management to address the sound, and this actually is, well, it's all important, but this is particularly important to address the sound and IT issues. So hopefully those watching the live stream will be able to hear us better. But we'll still ask commissioners to speak up, which I don't think will be a problem. This group. And our board administrators confirmed that we did that in person. We had a request for electronic participation. Was Matthew Turner on?
Not joining us.
Okay, you wanna, if he joins us, do you wanna read the name? Yeah, because we need to say why he's not. So, is he not on right now?
It's not on.
Well, so let me know, and then we'll go through the formalities. Okay, so, couple quick things I wanted to go over about the meeting, but first of all, I wanted to, spend a minute and in our thoughts is Congressman Jerry Connolly, who had an influence in this region, especially in transportation. In fact, my view is the fact that there's a silver line there, if there's one person that is central to that, probably is Jerry Connolly. So if there's no objection, I thought we could send a letter from NBTC just indicating how much we appreciated his work over the years, and then we hope that we can send him all best wishes. So if that's agreeable to people, then we'll do that. Thanks a lot. We're especially fortunate this evening to have the general manager and CEO Randy Clark, but particularly the relatively new board chair, Valerie Santos, joining us tonight, and we look forward to engaging with them on all things Metro related. So much good news. We look forward to sharing that, as well as their thoughts about where we can be and should be in the future. We'll also have staff present their proposed program of projects for the I-395/95 and the choice program. This is where NBTC invests full revenues into more transit and other projects. And finally, during our VRE section of the agenda, we'll have a special presentation from Delegate Krizek to recognize Stephen Kaiser. Kate, have we received any public comments?
Yes, Bridget Chair, we did receive one public comment this month. The commenter was not specific in his comment, but we believe it's in reference to the Richmond Highway BRT, which we happen to include some funding for it in our commuter choice program of projects. The commenter would like to see an earlier construction date so that it's completed prior to the proposed opening date. And this comment was provided to the commission earlier today.
And I suspect we'd all love to see it early. Those are all possible. That's sort of thanks for that. So the minutes are the next action item. So the last month's minutes before it's for action. Can I have a motion to approve the April 3rd minutes?
So moved. Second.
Second. Good. Is there any discussion about the minutes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you very much. That item passes unanimously. Now, the next action item is the consent agenda. And Kate, could you quickly review, give the highlights of the consent items?
Absolutely, Mr. Chair. The three items that are on our consent agenda, the first is to authorize the executive director to execute a contract award for the National Transit Database technical support on behalf of our jurisdictions. The second one is to authorize the executive director to issue a request for proposals for zero emission bus technical support for our local bus systems. And the third is to authorize the chair to provide testimony to the Commonwealth Transportation Board on behalf of NBTC.
So,
Second.
does anyone,
I'm sorry.
does anyone want any item removed from the consent agenda? Not seeing any, we'll take the motion to approve all the items on the consent agenda. It's been made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions. The consent agenda passes unanimously. Okay, next we move on to Vermont. Vermont is so fundamental, to this region. I can't imagine anything much more fundamental. I've been associated with Metro almost from its beginning, and from my standpoint, it's absolutely a critical part of everyone's life in this region, whether they use it on a regular basis. It's there, it's fundamental, infrastructure, fundamental to the quality of life here. So I want to first of all welcome Chair Santos. I'm wondering if Chair Santos had any initial comments that she wanted to make.
Great. Well, good evening. I'm going to try and project. I know I have a quiet voice. Can you hear me? Good. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to come and meet you all. I've met a few folks here before, so Kate Mattice has been fabulous, of course, and my colleagues Paul Smedberg and Matt Letourneau, and of course Walter and Kanik, who I don't see, but getting a chance to actually put names and faces together. I am so grateful. As was mentioned, I recently became chair last summer to be able to build upon the many years of hard work of my colleague Paul Smedberg in particular, who has served as chair for 5 years prior to himself. Just maybe it was suggested to me to make a few comments, just introducing myself a little bit because I am a DC person and now I'm a Metro person, but to let you know a little bit more about myself. So since becoming chair, I've made it a priority to connect with stakeholders across the region, which is why I met with Kate and others early on. So that's part of the reason I'm here. Really I'm here to listen and I'm curious, and I've been already asking folks particular questions around their priorities and what do they think about this or the other. And anytime, please do feel free to follow up, obviously with our general manager or myself, if there's either a question or commentary about something we're doing or not doing. And Randy will go into more details shortly with some slides about our performance and challenges ahead, but just a few comments about my own background and then priorities of our board. So as I was saying earlier to Chairman Snyder, I left my role. I've been working at the World Bank for 14 years, specifically on urban development and land use, on cities and financing infrastructure in the developing world. And so I've had the privilege and pleasure and the headache of working on TOD projects and from everywhere from Lima to China and complicated public-private projects in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia and Bucharest, Romania. So for me, it is a privilege and an enjoyable challenge to be coming back home to work on. I view, I agree with the comment that Metro is fundamental to our region. We're a world-class, we deserve a world-class system because we are a world-class capital. Prior to being at the World Bank, I had served as deputy mayor for planning and economic development in Washington, DC under Adrian Fenty. So that was 2007 and 2010. In that capacity, our priorities were very much about improving the efficiency and quality of public services. And my remit and the 9 agencies in my cluster were very focused on unlocking revenue and better making efficient use of public assets in particular. So transportation was not part of my portfolio, but we worked very closely, the urban team with transportation in the city. And I also bring up private sector perspective because I used to work for the real estate firm Jones Lang LaSalle on a prior capacity, again, focused on public sector issues and in real estate for Ernst & Young and other entities when I was a baby. But the main point is these experiences really inform my perspective and what I bring to Metro, which is, while, as I mentioned, I was appointed by DC, I've lived in DC for 20 years. Despite all my global travels, I've been anchored in DC. I view the administrative boundaries as administrative boundaries. This is a region, it's an urban region. And I view my role and responsibility as representing the region, advocating for the region and making sure that we as a board are cohesive in our vision and going forward and really advancing our very ambitious, audacious, bold general manager and the team to get our vision executed on. In terms of our board, there's a number of priorities that we've been focused on. Safety is a big one, particularly with safety of customers as much as of the system and of our employees. As I mentioned in executive session a little while ago, this is a priority as well of our federal partners. Efficiency, as I'm sure our general manager will talk about, the team has done a phenomenal job in the last year in particular on improving our metrics around operational efficiency, and our board has been very focused on continuing in that trend in the next few years. Related to economic development, so again, transit I view as, whether you can think of it as the veins that connect the region, right? Moving, enabling people to move around to their opportunities, whether it's jobs or students or whatever, all the economic activity. So Metro the team is trying to unlock more rapidly some of the real estate properties that are within the portfolio. And then lastly is an emphasis on data-driven decision-making. So there's tremendous opportunities, of course, and Metro is trying to transition from certain, how would I put it, more old school methods, whether it's paper, digitalization of records, improving procurement, improving all the less sexy elements of a large public institution, but which are critical to be able to deliver the services as efficiently as possible. But in sum, I'm excited about the team, our leadership. Our board recently voted to extend our executives' contract with the agency, mostly because it's important, we believe, to have the ongoing stability and leadership at this time when there's so much economic change in not just the region, but obviously in our country. And we are very also keenly focused on moving towards a standard of excellence, and we're confident that the next few years will yield that. So thanks for giving me a chance to say a few words.
Well, thank you very much for being here. This is kind of a unique mission here because you have state and local reflecting the way that transit is funded in Virginia, and we work together so very well. I think strengths here is the different viewpoints that those at the state level and the local level bring together. So it all works out to be a very positive commission, one that's doing a lot of interesting things, but obviously for function is assuring that Metro really is the world-class system that it once was, and it certainly is very close to being there now if it isn't there now. So thank you so very much. We very much look forward to working with you, and you're invited back anytime you want to come back for sure. So I thought that maybe Randy have a presentation. We could go through that, and then maybe if folks had any questions. So Randy, as the saying goes, Randy needs no introduction, but I'll give it anyway. As a regular rider of Metro, since he's come on board, there has been a dramatic and very clear improvement in all elements of the system, and we're just so lucky to have Randy with us. He came at a crucial time. He was the right person, and will continue to be the right person in the future. So Randy, thanks a lot. Thanks for all you've done, and we look forward to your presentation.
Well, Mr. Chair, thanks for having me and obviously the chair. Super kind words, and I'll accept them on behalf of 12,999 other colleagues of mine who really do the work every day. I'm just immensely proud to be part of this team. And I also thank Kate, partner in crime there, not crime for the people working virtually, but metaphorically at the end of the night. Just a great partner and really appreciate it. And there's so many people around this table that, I really feel like we've just, in one way, people said to me, hey, how long have you been at Metro? And I said, It's almost 3 years, but in metro years, it's like 47. And I feel like, there's a lot of people that felt like I've known for a long, long time, and I just really appreciate, a funding challenge last year. So many people in this room stepped up, made that happen, and just your ongoing, support of Metro, but also pushing us to be the best and to work with our local partners. So, to me, there's a lot going really well with all of us, right? There's headwinds out there that we can't control. But uniquely right now, Metro and the Commanders are actually both doing pretty well. So we'll take that moment in time and be, kind of be happy with it. Let's go through some slides here. I'll go through them relatively quickly because obviously you got other things to get into too, but it's deep enough because, we come, every little bit. So the first slide is really, you've seen this before, a couple things I want to highlight here. Within a half a mile of metro stations makes up about 3% of our region's landmass, and it drives over 30%, I think it's almost 33% of our tax base. So $330 billion of tax base within a half a mile of metro, right? So it's pretty clear wherever metro goes, the community flows from there. Metro, transit is 20 times safer than being in cars. So I get it. We're never going to stop trying to be safe. We also need context that the worst day at Metro will be safer than the roads around the DMV on its best day. And that's every day of the week. It's impossible, right? So transit is incredibly safe, and we need to get more and more people on transit. And it's like a park. The more people that actually use it, the safer the actual system. We're probably the only public service where more people that use it, it becomes more efficient and better, right? There's literally nothing else in public service. The fire department can only do so many calls, maybe so many students in a teacher room ratio. We're the opposite. The more in, generally the better. But that just highlights some of the big things. Let's go to a little bit Metro by the numbers, and I'll call it a couple here I want to call out. When I got here, there was this thing of, Metro has audits, and I don't know where that urban legend came from, but this year we're really proud that it's our 9th straight clean audit. And Metro certainly had serious auditing challenges in the early to mid-teens, major challenges. There was a massive restructure, but 9 years of clean audits, I think and that's done by our Office of Inspector General, who works for the board, has no connection to management, so it's completely independent. A couple other things I want to highlight here, as the chair mentioned, $500 million plus, and actually we get another 10 million late into this year's budget on cost savings and cost avoidance. So that is digging in across the board. Fare evasion down on rail very significantly. We're now basically almost the same level every day, no matter how many more people are on the system. So we kind of know that we've really pushed that down. We got some strategies we want to keep working. The bus side is definitely harder. It's very hard too, because we have an inconsistent policies of the region. So where we run buses in certain parts of the region, we collect fare, and other people have made their system fare free. Kind of hard to communicate and educate and enforce when two buses on the same street have different policies. But we are doing everything we can because that is money that is desperately needed to run the system. Another thing I want to highlight here is, how much we are working, and I'll highlight this slide later, partnership with our real estate portfolio. And I just want to really say that there's a lot of staff that work for different people in this room. We are working every day to try to collaborate. Challenges, obviously, the market and financing and all those types of things, but we're finally starting to see the Metro's 10-year strategic plan, which is mostly in our industry considered the most mature real estate program of any transit in the country. It's starting to really percolate. We just had an event in Deanwood in DC on Monday with the mayor. And Deanwood has been a site that people want to develop when my chair here was the deputy mayor. So there's some things that are really starting to come to fruition, and there's more in Virginia we'd like to do as well. The next slide, if we want to focus on public safety, and the chair highlights up, but 40% year over year, but in 2 years, crime is down 65%. And I went out and we have a crime stat meeting. I went out with the chief and the command staff today to review crime stat, and April's numbers are lower than March's numbers. And when we get the finalized ridership reconciliation early next week, we'll put that out publicly. But we are currently on track to have the lowest Part 1 crimes. So Part 1 crimes are like the real serious crimes, right? It looks like we are on trend to beat 1,000 crimes for the year. And that will be the lowest that the data for the Transit Police Department exists. So the lowest we've ever had is about 1,050, 60, something like that in 2018. Last year, I think we were about 1,250, which was much better than the 1,400 the year before that. it really means crime continues to just go down, down, down. One crime is too many, but we're gonna just keep working at that because we understand people's perception and reality sometimes don't align around that topic, but we're working really hard on that. Part of that was our gates as well. We have a crisis intervention team with about 20 trained crisis intervention specialists, social workers that are out in the system all the time. And I will say, it's not just a D, we are across all 3 jurisdictions working that all the time. And we're very collaborative with our law enforcement and public safety partners. Another thing that I want to highlight is we have 22 new officers starting next week. We have a graduation ceremony. I was actually out with them this morning. That's our first academy class. We created our own academy that saved us $1 million a year and allows us to run 3 classes a year instead of 2. And we really are trying to rebuild the ranks. We're pretty decent shape, but we really want to try to continue growing those ranks. And we're just about to launch a recruitment campaign. Part of the problem with police officers, everyone keeps doing signing bonuses and out bonusing each other. So unfortunately, we got to now keep up a little bit. But anyway, we're really trying to keep grow our police department. The last thing on safety, not necessarily public safety, but to me, it's we're in the public and it's all safety, is our automatic train operation system. And I just want to highlight that quickly. We've been back on automatic train operation on the red line. So this is the system technology that this place was built with. So on the red line, we're back to the 70s. Sounds weird to say that, but it's taken almost 15 years to do that. And the number one issue that we are scared of in a rail operation is red signal violations. That is the train running through a red signal because that could cause very serious infrastructure damage and in theory, train on train or train on people. Since we went back to automatic train operation red line, we've had 0 red signal violations, which is the entire purpose of why we want to be on automatic train operations. So not only is it much safer, we're also, our reliability is up where 60,000 people in April had better on-time performance. Overall red line performance is up 3 to 4% of on-time performance. And we have booked for FY26 saving $7 million by being on automatic train operation. And I'll give you an example of that. On the red line, in the June schedule, we will run the same frequency on red line with 2 less trains than we ran on manual operation. And so we are working very collaboratively with our WMSC partners, and we're hoping, cautiously optimistic, we'll get some news soon and we can then roll that out. A good example would be the Silver Line, where we have track and signals set up to run at 65 and to 75 miles an hour, and we purposely right now leave it at 59. And so when you're on the Silver Line and cars are flying by you to Dulles, we're not too far away from changing that game and making those trips to Dulles even faster and safer. So all of that working together as the system continues to get safer. You highlight the next slide, just a quick budget recap. This is it, and of course, Kate has this on your packets, but it's about $5 billion this year. And I won't go through this. Many people here know the kind of makeup. If we go to the next slide, it's really about ridership. And there's lots of good things to highlight here. We had the cherry blossom season out of control. We had our second busiest Saturday of all time. The busiest of all time was the Women's March that happened. I guess that's the 8 years ago. And it was the busiest single day ever at Smithsonian Station. So we had 710,000 people on a Saturday on the rail system, which is kind of bonkers to be perfectly honest on a Saturday. Lots of things going on, CAPS, NATS, all the other things we were talking about, look at sickles. Our average now in April, we were at 950,000 daily. We hit 1 million again yesterday. We did 1 million 3 days, 1 million average 3 days last week. So our base is kind of back to being close to 1 million. Last Friday, we did 500,000 on rail again. That's been a long time to get our Monday and Fridays back, and that's back. So the thing we're really excited about is I got the data coming over here. Get someone to text me the data coming over. April, year over year, so this is the breaking news, but we'll put it up a little bit publicly, is we were up on rail 22% year over year, which is just really hard to fathom. And overall system, we were up 13%. So in April, we had approximately 25 million trips on the system in the month of April. Parking up 60% year over year. Incredible. So we've led the country now for over 2 years straight on ridership growth, beating all of our peer systems. And we believe April data will that'll be another month. So we're going to keep the good times going as long as we can on all that. But I know that is a topic every time I've come, Kate. Number one topic we mostly talked about is where's the system health, and the health is the people are back to use. Next slide is Virginia specifically. Just wanted to call out that, Virginia Metro Rail stays continue to grow month over month. We actually have more people use the system on weekends out of Virginia than we ever kind of used to. And so there's a lot of good things happening on the Virginia side. We hit different kind of new records all the time, including we're seeing again the Dulles corridor continue to grow, which we all knew that would take a while, right? But a few of the stations are really performing very, very well. Now we're coming to Metro in 2025 and beyond. So I guess one more slide, please. Thank you. FY26 budget will be implemented at the end of June. I want to thank the board for their. We had a very robust conversation, obviously, really good board and staff dialogue throughout the entire process. We actually started the budget process in October and ended just a few weeks ago. So that will start next week on FY27. But a couple things to highlight here is that we are doing a little bit more red and silver line service in the peak. I heard from a couple of people in this room actually about how crowded they're getting trains. We've actually had some situations where people are waiting for one or two trains now, depending on where you're located to get on. That's not a great problem, but it's a good problem to have in our world and how to fix that. The part that is kind of exciting is we're about to open earlier on weekends in the morning and stay open later. And this is a really big deal for, again, airport access is a good example, but also worker access. People, like if you have a job at 8 a.m. on a Saturday, right now you basically can't use the rail system to get to that. And this, to the chair's point, if we are the world capital of the richest country in the world, it seems weird that you can't get to work at 8 o'clock on a Saturday. So we're very excited to implement that. In December, we were going to have the yellow line go to Greenbelt or Greenbelt to Huntington, depending on which side you're coming from. So again, a nice connection, better connection between Virginia, DC, and Maryland on that as well. Next slide is the Better Bus Network. A few of us have been talking about that. Some people in the room have been telling me that there's events that I must go to that we look forward to doing. But we're very excited at the end of June to the biggest effort in Metro's history around Better Bus, redesigning our entire network, incredible collaborative partnership around the region with all the local bus operators as well. We are changing all the names, lots of route changes, eliminating some stops to make systems faster, more reliable. We know we're going to carry, we think 13 to 15,000 more people for the same amount of cost. There is no question at the start of this, we're going to have some hiccups. You're probably going to have some constituents. You're going to let us know, and we're going to work on them. Mostly what that means is we're doing our best to analyze what we think traffic will be and how long the runs will take. And there's inevitably going to be some miscalculations, mostly on traffic. And then as we learn, the December pick will clean some of those up. If it's really egregious, we'd obviously fix it a little earlier, but in the next pick, we clean that up. But we're really excited to provide way more frequent, reliable service to a lot more people. And again, a good example would be, we were just talking, the 28A here in Virginia is an incredible workhorse. I think it might be maybe like number 4 or something busiest route in the whole system. There's just a lot of people we're moving with all of our partners in the Virginia part of the network. Up next is communicating the network. Everyone in the room I think knows Greg Potts, the unofficial Wilmota Metro mayor of Virginia here. And certainly know how to get a hold of him. And Greg has been doing a lot of work with your teams, hopefully you all directly as well. And we're here to support in any way. What we're really asking here, and you all have access to newsletters, you have access to email distribution groups, you have a lot of constituents that really rely on you for information. The more we can collaborate and coordinate here over the next 5 to 8 weeks, getting information out and then being responsive to them and evolving that, we would really appreciate that. And there's again a unified approach to that. But this is just kind of a general overview of a lot of the communications that will be happening. The next slide here, I mentioned a little bit on the real estate side. This just gives you a little understanding of recently completed at Huntington. That was 366 units. Where we are in active joint development is West Falls Church. This is a mixed use development. Active planning and feasibility analysis is Braddock, Eisenhower, and Huntington. That part of Huntington is really, quite frankly, a garage that we need the garage to go away. And until that happens, that one's really not going to be able to move. But if that goes away, I think that site has an enormous potential. We don't have the funding to move that garage, but hopefully maybe there'll be some state partners that can work on that. And then future analysis, East Falls Church, Van Dorn and Vienna. And they're good spots. Depends on where you sit in the room sometimes. Just some conversations we've had recently. So again, we want to be a partner to help you activate. We don't do real estate development. We do facilitating real estate development, right? You have your goals around housing stock, around economic development. We just want to be a partner that helps facilitate that. There's not like the money in it for Metro, right? It's really about creating more active community, more active tax base for all of us. If we go to the next one, we're going to do a few slides here on I would say, the chair's theme of world-class transit. So some people might say, hey, we just have a little bit of conversation. Why is it that we're beating a lot of our peers, all of our peers, on ridership growth? And it's kind of the simple thing. We're running safe, frequent, reliable service. That's the number one thing. Marketing and all these other things, fares come second. Great service is what gets people to use transit. And we need, the number one thing is to make sure we're doing that and do it in places that we're not doing. So I've heard loud and clear from a lot of people, the Blue Line still doesn't run the frequency that we did before the pandemic. And we know we want to do a little bit more there. We need rail cars and we need signaling and a bunch of other things, right? Other people have other parts of the network. On the bus side, we don't run enough service on the weekends yet. We don't run certain places. We end at 6 p.m. and we want to get to say 9 p.m. Some places we run a 15-minute service, we know we need 10. And some places we're 10, we know we need 8, and et cetera, et cetera. So that number one thing is just investing in good service continually is the number one thing we can do. After that, it's how do we constantly, become more efficient, become safer, more reliable. And if we go to the next slide, we're really looking at it from a variety of ways. One of the ways that we've heard pretty clearly, especially on this side of the river, is related to our blue, orange, silver corridor. And the blue, orange, silver, sometimes known as the Roslyn Connector or the Roslyn Tunnel. Interestingly enough, the Roslyn piece is kind of really, it's named kind of inappropriately in one way because it has really nothing to do with Roslyn. It's Roslyn to Stadium Armory is our issue, right? So if we build a tunnel between Roslyn and Foggy Bottom, we just move the problem to Foggy Bottom, and then we'd have the Foggy Bottom tunnel, right? It's Roslyn to Stadium Armory because 3 lines come together sharing the same tracks. That's the actual issue we have. So we don't have the redundancy and resiliency through that part of the network, and it ultimately leads to capacity issues. We also have capacity issues with transfer stations. So Farragut was never built correctly. Park Service kind of caused a problem for Metro. If you read the history of Metro, and Farragut West and Farragut North were never connected. And that leads to a very significant challenge in throughput there. Same thing as Metro Center and Gallery that are basically 2 blocks apart, and that causes some challenges. So one of the ways we want to think holistically, and we had a really deep presentation with the board a couple of weeks ago, but we're coming back in December with a really sophisticated business plan, benefit cost analysis, and really moving Metro into a life cycle analysis approach, which is not worrying about one budget year, but over the budget of 20, 30, 40 years, and how fleet and facilities and all of these things work together in one budget and how things work like that. And that's how you would really get from most business entities, right? And so one of the things we're thinking through is the Blue Orange Silver study showed the potential of doing a whole new thing called the Blue, but that was going to be $30 to $35 billion. And I think we just had to come to reality that, you need New York City density to even think of pulling off a $30, $35 billion project. And it would take potentially generations, and then the opportunity cost lost on the generations. And so rail automation is really where we're focused as staff, the organization, working with the board, is to really drive that as our first element. How do we take the system we have and get a lot more outcome of the current assets that we have? And automation means safer because people can't get on the tracks, which we had 2 today. Unfortunately, people put some harm's way in front of trains. We had someone at Van Dorn or Franconia, at a store, ran down to our tracks today, escaping police. That caused a disruption. So those are things, legitimate safety issues. Our signaling system is antiquated. It's 1970s technology. It's very safe, but it's becoming obsolete very quickly. And we need to move into the next generation of signaling, which most people might hear the term CBTC, right? Communications-based train control. And we need to be thinking about reliability. Right now, we're running pretty well, about what most people would look at as 90% reliability, give or take 91. We want to be in the 97, 98, 99% range. And that's what the world's best systems are, 98, 99%. And so to do that, we need to automate our system, and that, I want to be crystal clear, does not mean getting rid of all our employees. Not at all. We need to upskill our employees. We need to think about where employees do things really well, and where machines do things really well, and how they work together. And if we could do that, we become much more cost efficient on the capital side, much more cost efficient on the operating side. More people could use the system, and we can get more trains between Roslyn and Stadium Armory. So our current signaling system allows mid-20s amount of trains to the core. And any more than that, it's either A, physically impossible, or the system really doesn't perform. It's just too many trains with the current system. We know with automation, we should be able to get that over 30. And if we can get in, yes, sir, over 30, right? And if we can get to that, we're not gonna need a new tunnel and move more trains, right? Because that, at that point, you're moving like a train every 2 minutes, right? And I think it's pretty clear, we're not gonna have a 4-minute frequency from Ashburn. I mean, we would need to build a lot of towers at Ashburn to get a 4-minute frequency, right? But that allows us to have 3 lines really working very well together and managing that well. To complement that though, we need a better bus network, especially in the core of our region, east-west, to mimic Stadium Armory and Roslyn, because we still need to do maintenance. And if there's any actual issues, we need a relief valve. And so those are things like K Street, working at Union Station to get other connection. And it's not just for Metro buses. And through this DMV moves process, it's pretty clear. If you ask Bob Snyder, his biggest problem is the buses can't move when they get to DC. He said the last 2 miles of a trip take long as the other 20 miles. So we need to think regionally about, it's not where the investment happens, it's how we all benefit from that investment. And if we do that with some station modernization, like a good example, Foggy Bottom, Farragut, we're all going to be able to think through how our capacity of blue, orange, and silver changes forever. And then we can start thinking about extensions, which people want to do, or other things of that nature. So a long way of getting at, we want to move the organization to be like the world-class systems of the world, right? Things that are very reliable, very cost efficient, and very safe. And so the next slide is really DMV moves. That's a lot of efforts being done by that. There's a lot of people in this room working on it, very much appreciated. Our partner at COG, we couldn't have a better partner, Clark and his team. There's a lot of work to do here, but I take unbelievable, I'm an optimist by nature, but the fact that everyone's together, and I think more or less agrees on a problem statement that if we had indexed the capital funding in 2019, we probably wouldn't even have deep moves, to be honest, because most people would say, yeah, Metro, figure the rest of it out. But the purchasing power has been dramatically changed since 2019 without indexing, and it's only going to continue to erode year after year. So somehow we got to backfill that and make sure that then we have a good state of good repair and modernization, because we do not want to go back to track fires. We do not want to go back to offloading trains and derailments and things of that nature. We're at a high performance now, and we want to keep going in that direction. I'll wrap up with service advisory, talking about state of good repair. Unfortunately, this area is going to get, well, not exactly where we are, but in Northern Virginia is going to have a little bit of construction challenges in July. We have to do work between Franconia and King Street. We got this alternative bus network down really well at this point. Not perfect, but really we got it down pretty well. And we're going to be providing very good bus service during the July period. This is going to allow us to get some complex track work, fiber for our radio, power systems, and some of that nature, really getting in there and getting as much work possibly done so we don't have to come back there. After this one's over, we have a few week period on the southern part of the Green Line that we're going to do some heavy construction in as well. And so that, you know, we got basically the summer little outage, and then we got something around the holidays in the winter that we flex into as well. Really trying to get as much work done because we want to run really good service on it every day and on the weekends. Hopefully that, Kate, didn't go too long. Unfortunately, sometimes I like when you get me rolling. But again, just really appreciate the partnership, and really happy to answer any questions or take any advice or thoughts you may have.
Sure.
Thank you.
Extraordinary presentation, extraordinary work. Elliot.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm over in Mount Vernon area, and Huntington's our station, though it's in Delegate Sickles' district next door to mine. And we're working on having the big Route 1 widening and bus rapid transit. We're excited about how that all come in there. We're hoping that the linkage at the top of the metro, there's two at the down the bottom and top, right? That's seamless and doesn't have people walking in the rain and things like that. So we're looking forward to that process, that whole thing. But also, the other concern is, I mean, you talk about reliability and I know what you're talking about. We all know what you're talking about, but one thing that I think our constituents think about reliability is whether there's a parking space and whether there's construction going on. And every time you show up at Huntington, you don't know what's gonna happen next. And it's getting fewer and fewer spaces. And I don't know if you're doing this in any other, because I take the Metro, the yellow line to go to Caps games, Wizards games, and then I go to the green line to get to Nationals games. And so that's my whole entire Metro career. But I do it all the time. And I think one of the reasons my constituents like it is because it is so simple, because it's right on the yellow line, doesn't take long. And you don't have to park in DC, you can avoid it, you can spend it, you can go to restaurants and everything else. But when they show up and when they don't know if they can get a spot, they're more willing to like drive into DC and take the risk because they know there's gonna be some space in some parking lot somewhere, even with the traffic.
Yeah, no, Huntington got some acute challenges right at the moment. So one, we got the garage that we're never opening again. It needs to be demolished. There's no saving that thing. That's way gone. Unfortunately, we have no money to knock the thing down, but eventually, I know you're very focused on it.
Yes.
I talked to county administrator Hill about it a lot. You know, we need some money to knock that thing down. That's that garage. We have kind of an acute maintenance issue at one of the other garages right now that we're working on. We'll get a timeline and get it back to everybody on that one. I think they're wrapping that up relatively soon. So we had some fire life safety elements with standpipes that we had to get in and do some work on. And so it's kind of like an emergency kind of contract to work on that. So they're in there working very hard at that. I don't have a date when that's going to be done, but I know they're working on it to get it done really soon. And there's no question it caused an acute parking issue in Huntington. We've done a fair amount of messaging. We're trying to get people to go to generally trying to get people to go in the Franconia direction if they can, depending on what way they're coming from. But we'll get a date out, and the more, we could share that and you could share with people, that would be helpful. And that should then take care of the capacity at Huntington.
That'll be great. Yeah.
Thank you, Senator.
Yeah, slide 8 you had about Virginians returning to Metro Rail. I was just wondering generally, I don't need the actual absolute drill down stats, but are you finding that in Maryland and DC, people are returning at similar rates or better rates?
Just Virginia. No, that's a great question. It's not, I guess, a 1-to-1 per station, but we are seeing. I will say, I looked at the parking data specifically this morning. The Maryland side is really heavy. So they've actually increased on the parking, especially certain lots, more than Virginia. Although some of our Virginia lots are the highest. So a good example would be like East Falls Church is our most oversubscribed parking in the entire system. To a point where we have officers out there ticketing almost every day. People are blocking fire lanes and other things. Vienna, very busy again. So depending on where you are in Virginia, very busy. That's a good indicator of, we would say, the medium long haul trips. So when like this corridor is so non-parking indicated of transit, right? So this has always been a big transit corridor, but we are seeing even this part of the network increase. I think where we knew the biggest gains would be with the medium long haul trips. So starting to see, Supervisor Alcorn's area, really starting to see some of that stuff percolate month after month after month. And that's that medium band, if you will. And then, even Ashburn and Franconia, we're seeing some of the further out getting that as well. So, and then obviously we have a Huntington problem when you can't get parking there. So I think it's across the entire network that we continue to see. And it's not just federal, return to office. There's no question that is a component. But it's people going to games, it's midday, weekends are incredibly busy. So I think that's the healthiest part I see is it's not just one type of customer and one type of place, it's really across the board. And if we can keep that gives us the sustained growth.
Supervisor Paulson.
Thank you. So good to see you. Randy, so nice to meet you. Ms. Santos. Let me start with the positive, which amazing. I can attest. I was trying to get downtown for a lunch meeting. East Falls Church was overparked. Went to West Falls Church, ran into you. And the parking situation was very different and had the short-term parking, which is helpful if you're not going in for a full day. The only thing I would say there is the sign in the parking lot at East Falls Church still sends you to Boston. So let's send people to West Falls Church.
Oh, must be an old song, okay.
Yeah, I
Okay.
noticed it. Yeah, it's near the front. And then
That's the hardest thing we got this week.
I know,
Okay.
and that's an easy one. I meant to tell you the other day, but the upset, I love that you're focused on bus. I love the new bus network. I do. I know there are probably differences in people's history here with experiences of changes in bus, losing bus routes. As someone who lived in DC for many years and is excited to have more efficiency and more buses. The new bus line, I didn't ask for it, but I'll be able to take it to work. It's very exciting.
Great.
Let's just make sure, I know you're talking a lot about reducing impacts and making it easier in the district, right? And as someone who's lived in every jurisdiction in the WMATA area, don't forget Virginia, not just don't forget Virginia. I know there's some fears, we no longer have the chair in Virginia, that the focus will be on the district and on Maryland, which is so close to the district, and not on the needs of having bus and access of transit all across. Especially in Virginia, where we have longer distances to get
Yeah,
places.
no, I appreciate it. And if I didn't articulate that wrong, I thought, so what we're saying, that we're clearly very focused on the entire network, the whole region. There's no question, and we don't have a favorite, a parent or sibling, depending on how you want to look at it that way. What I think the challenge is a lot of buses. So like, if you take a bus from Virginia and you're going into or DC, the worst part of that trip is generally in the DC part. And what we're saying is we're trying to work, DDOT and they're a fantastic partner council, but thinking regionally, where are the biggest sticking points across the region? Because everyone will gain when we can loosen up the worst sticking points, regardless of where that is. So again, back to Bob Snyder from Omni, right? The buses that he's running actually have the slowest is actually in towards the core, not further out. So all of us want to free up where those parts are, so the whole network can run better.
So I hear you, but again, and I know as we're working, Delegate Reed and Senator Salim, is how do we get more of that bus rapid transit and how do we make those improvements in Virginia too? Most of the buses I ride are not going into the.
No, of course, I just use that, I'm sorry, as an
Yeah,
example.
no, but just to make it, the more people we're able to get out of their cars onto that last mile, to that connection to Metro, whether it's to the end of the line by my office over in Vienna, or whether it's East Falls Church or up in Wheelie, I think as we think regionally, making sure it's not just DC out.
100%. I think like the example, the 28A is a great example, which doesn't touch DC. And it's one of our busiest routes and we spend an enormous amount of time on.
About to be
high
20, I
performance
believe.
safety of that, so.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yes. Dan.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Paul mentioned the Huntington and mine's a little bit different part of it. It's still the same issue, parking, but it's that parking garage that you keep seeing $15 million to take it down, and how do you get the money to do that? And that's delaying all the other, I think, potential development there. One of which is, and this is the core of the question, is the relationship you have for affordable housing. And then we had a number of conversations. Huntington, I know there was a benefactor that was willing to do some affordable housing there. I don't know where that stands, but we were very much supportive of trying to make that happen. But it got to be a very difficult challenge, even though we're talking about putting some towers up there to make it all work. And then the final piece of that, which is the part that really matters to create the kind of integration and interface that I think is absolutely continuing to build on Metro's strengths, which is moving people quickly from one place to another, is the BRT line, and creating and having interface that's below ground. To do that, you have to demolish the parking garage, and you have to spend at least another $40 or $50 million to do that. And there's some ways we can do that. There's some county money and some other sources, but that money is a big barrier. And then tying that into the affordable housing that gets built there is another part of that. So have you heard anything more about the affordable? Because it seems like it's not moved forward. I don't hear anything from your shop about where we are with any urgency or any interest in doing that.
Yeah, Supervisor, great question. I know our team's interacted with you and your team a lot. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's all money. And it's not our money, and that's the real kicker, right? So we don't have any money for the parking garage. We've been pretty clear with that. we are all in on facilitating, so if the funding becomes available to knock that garage and wanting to integrate, you know, quite frankly, I think we should have a deeper conversation about BRT and again, multiple operators, and there's some synergies there that we should be, I think, working on a little bit more. But take that out of the question, that is a seemingly right now a Fairfax project, trying to go through a federal process. We're trying to be a good partner and facilitate, but at the end of the day, that's gonna be a Fairfax and if federal government sponsors how that funding comes together, let alone the money for the garage study. So we don't do, if you will, we don't do zoning and that kind of thing. We're there to facilitate that. So some of the projects we're doing have X amount of affordable housing, some don't have any. Most all have some to some capacity. We're working with individual jurisdictions on that because you all have your goals. So again, you got our commitment. We want to be your partner. We want to move Huntington along. It's just a matter, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's money. And we need money to move that plan forward.
Have you heard anything else about the international? It's a national organization, but an international charity that was going to put money into that wanted to be nameless at the time, although we all know their name, about their commitment to doing affordable housing there.
Yeah, I assume you mean the Amazon Housing Trust. Yeah.
They didn't want to use their name,
No,
but
I'm happy to use
happy to use
that.
it.
We do a lot with them. We've done it in multiple places. It's just not a site that pencils out for that
so
location.
that's gone now.
I know it's gone. I think we back to the garage. So we got a garage issue, right? And so you got one plot that only can do X if the garage stays. And then if the garage goes away, a lot more capacity can be put there together, as you know well, because it's your area. So I think we still go back to, we need to deal with the root cause, which is an abandoned old garage that, and you know, if it was 15 million 2 years ago, probably 24 million today, and it's gonna be 30 million in 3. And so the earlier we move a decision on that, probably the better it is for everybody. Yeah.
Well,
I wish
it's
I had a better
something like,
answer.
is there any Amazon money still, and if it's still potentially available, so we could plug that into some of the calculations that we might.
Yeah, we still have a really tight relationship with them. They have various funding decisions that they want to do. I don't think that site right at the moment is on the radar because it's just not feasible at the moment. So we are trying to again work with all of our partners to try to put the best process forward.
I'll work on. Yeah, I'm gonna be the third Huntington person here. So if there was a project that you had a developer on that had, it was a public-private partnership, they had a proposal, it'd be more likely to be able to get funding for it from the county, from the state, all go together with the developer together in the project. If you just say, knock down the garage before we do anything, that's a lot harder. So you need to like be a little bit more creative maybe with your developers and say, hey, let's put together no one wants to do that because it costs too much money or they can't.
Yeah.
We'll go fight for the money, right?
Yeah.
Dan will at the county level and Adam and I and Paul will at the state level. We'll try to go get some. We'll even try to get Serval to help, which it'll hurt us, you know? And so, you know.
But Doug, I think, listen, it's not a lot. I think it's more coordination from the state and the county together on that with us would be really good. So I think setting up a meeting offline about that, let's just say there's been extensive conversations with our staff and county staff. And at the end of the day, you know, we got to get more people together and get them on the same page.
I'm just saying it's very hard to go down and say, how much you need to take it down?
At this point,
How many million?
probably 15 to 20 million.
Okay,
maybe
well,
even more. Yeah, but it's not just that. It's again, we're going to have to facilitate a partner here. It's extensive work between Metro staff and county staff. And, you know, we can do an offline conversation you and I've talked about before, maybe you need, but I think there's a variety of opinions and ideas about BRT integration, there's a variety of opinions on development. It's not necessarily a Metro roadblock for that. So more coordination, I think,
Well,
would be
I'm
really
not
good.
looking for a roadblock, but some initiative from your, to get it developed.
Lots of initiative on our, maybe offline, sir, I'll
Okay.
give you more, there's lots of initiative on our side. to try
If
to-
I may, my experience has been incredible with your new team in development and engaging. So I don't know if it's site specific, but I know I was told don't even start with the former development team you had, and now they really were having conversations. And I just know personally, it's been very productive and different from what I'd heard. in the past.
We'll talk to anyone and move any idea along.
We need to come down to our
So
part.
I'm betting there'll be some additional meetings on that. Yes, if I
You see what happens when the system works well, the appetite increases for real stuff, right? That's refreshing. Remember where we were 2 years ago? We still are in certain ways. Quick question. I appreciate a lot the discussion that you have introduced about the automation of the system. What I'm trying to understand, and I understand the practicality and why you think that it is a priority to get better performance and, more capacity, better performance. What is the operational benefit of that? Will we see the system being, per performance unit more efficient, also economically more efficient? I say that because this is part of the DMV moves mindset, right?
Yeah, no, great. And so again, if I didn't explain that well, so higher reliability leads to higher use of our assets, safer, and significantly more efficient. So a good example on the red line, we probably have 32 train control rooms. We'll go down to one major data center and do small mini data hubs at our interlocking, so 5 or 6. So we go from maintaining 31 independent rooms with heating and cooling and all this antiquated equipment to cloud technology. Just like that, right? Gives you a good example earlier about we run trains closer together. So we run, again, red line's just easy because we've been using that on ATO. The same amount of service, so a 5-minute frequency, you would use 5 less trains, full automation versus currently at manual. And again, a brand new train is about $3 million a car. If you ran an 8-car train set, right, you're looking at a $24 million train set. And if you get rid of 5 of those, think of how much money that actually means, not just on capital, but what it means on long-term operating and maintenance, right? So then you could use your fleet more efficient, you could use your yards and facilities more efficient. There's a reason this happens all over the world. Like, there's not Randy has this great idea.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the cost curve is pretty dramatic long-term, but it's also massive benefit on the operating for customers, staff safety, overall reliability.
So this is what I was after. That this needs to be articulated. It needs to be like, put numbers on that, because I think that also it is not easy to roll it out for the entire system immediately. It will have to have some sort of a phased implementation, right? So I think this plays a very big role in how we think about the cost structure of operating the rail system. And that will be important for the conversations that we are having right now on funding.
Yeah, great conversation. So December, as I mentioned, we'll be back to the board for a pretty detailed business plan and benefit cost analysis in December. Yeah, it's not like the plan's there and you just implement, but pretty significant analysis where we want to be. And yeah, this is this could be a 20-year phased in approach, right? The system took 50 years to build, and we're talking about fundamentally changing the operations, right? So you would do it in segments and phases over time. There might be segments that the ROI shows it's worth doing versus not doing, and other parts it should be phased first. We have to get federal grant competition on parts, and they need to pencil out to be competitive. So we are in the earliest of early days, but what we're trying to do is drive to the chair said, world-class transit.
Yeah.
And these are the markers that we need to drive.
Thank you. Ms. Santos, welcome here. Great to see you. You probably have to convey that, no, it cannot take 20 years to implement that. It has to be faster. So anyway, thank you so much.
You can do a lot of things faster with more money. So.
But it's for the money faster. It's a benefit.
No money.
So on the extended hours, I know that this is something that's gotten a lot of positive attention from a lot of people I work with. And I'm wondering, in terms of assessment, right? If 1 year from now, what will make us say it's good that we did this, or we should, think about extending them more? And what will make us say, this really wasn't worth it, that we extended the hours? Like, what are we looking at for success there?
Sure, I think great question. Ridership is an obvious factor. I think kind of just from a Title VI point of view, how that really benefits like low income individuals specifically, because it's really about access to opportunity. The Title VI analysis process will really be a part of that as well. I think key stakeholders like restaurants, associations and things of that nature, airports, are we seeing noticeable things from airport workers, airport travelers? We work very closely with MWA as an example. So I think there's some variety of those factors. To adding more hours or extending, I would say we're probably gonna get close to the max. Not necessarily, probably at least until we get to an automated system. There will be a day when our technology will improve maintenance at a exponentially higher level. We're a while from that. We are getting better by the year. Last year, we improved what we call wrench time. So overnight or weekend or a delay, we call that wrench time, right? It doesn't matter if you're using wrench or not. And overnight work is very critical that we get stuff done. And I will say, I was very surprised 3 years ago, we were the worst performing overnight maintenance of anybody in the country and just around the world. It was really very off alignment with our peers. And the team has really worked very hard at that. We built an entire transparency aspect internally around that. And last year we improved wrench time in the overnight window by 40%. So that might not seem a lot when you go from like 1 minute and 40 minutes to 2 minutes and 10 minutes. But if you do that 5 days a week or some days 6 days a week over and over and over, it makes sure that the system, because we don't want speed restrictions, because speed restrictions mean that our track's in good shape, right? We don't want signal failures because our interlockings and signals are working. And we don't want power cable fires because our power cables are in good shape. And every extra hour out there matters. So we are looking at an advanced train in our new 8000 series procurement that is going to be incredibly sophisticated, really drives imaging, lasers, lots of other things, really driven by AI. It's going to help on our maintenance portfolio pretty significantly. I'm 3 years away 2 to 3 years away before that train gets here. But I think that's where, X amount of years after that, maybe you can get a little bit more revenue service, but this is probably going to be our max. I would think from a staff recommendation on still balancing work.
Okay.
Thank you, Supervisor O.
Thank you both for being here. Excellent conversation. Appreciate that. One of the things that we talked a little bit in the executive committee about was as we're looking for dedicated revenue source for transit, both at the DMV moves level and also with SJ 28. We're probably going to be having very soon at NVTC a discussion about what we're trying to solve. What is it that we're trying to do? And big compliments to Randy, the team, and to the Metro board for bringing down operating costs and really, going the extra mile for that. Clearly, the capital costs remain a challenge financially in looking out to the future. But one of the things we'll be, I think, needing to talk about here at NVTC is both at the local level and also at the state level, how we are paying for both capital and operating costs. So is that part of what we're going to solve too? So that's sort of an internal discussion, I think, that we need to have. But certainly the improvements that you've already made in terms of managing costs, huge shout out to, haven't mentioned this yet, but the contract, union contract and frankly, the sacrifice of the employees in terms of no compensation increases this year. That's huge. And, thank everybody at Metro for basically doing that and moving through that. But we're not going to see that every year, obviously, not sustainable. And so, we're going to have the discussion about how we do some sort of long-term dedicated revenue. So anyway, that's a discussion we're going to have. But, the better you do and the board does, I think the easier job it's going to be for us to figure out how to pay for it. So thank you.
Oh, go ahead. She's first.
No, thank you. Thanks for being here in the presentation. One of the elements that I'd love to see sort of incorporated into the communications engagement and slides like this is the benefit to non-users.
I think I love the focus on the safety and the reliability, because I've experienced it myself and it's great. But I think, there are still people who for, scheduling reasons or, physical reasons or, location reasons don't use the system, but they also benefit from those that do. And so I don't know exactly how you quantify that and what that, image looks like. I know VRE has the stat that I love to cite about, replacing a lane of traffic basically with the people that are on the train. So I don't know if there's an equivalent way to sort of talk about that, when we're talking to our community about funding sources and why everybody should invest. Just kind of wanted to make that pitch. And if you could just take a moment, we touched on this in exec as well. World Pride's coming up. Just Metro's preparation for that and the opportunities with One Touch payment systems.
Yeah, so, well, thank you for that, and I think, we do a variety of things on the non-transit customer, but probably the best way that I kind of led a transit election in Texas, so this has been a lot of days of my life visiting people that don't use transit, value transit. But I would say anyone that drives, you should just simply say, how's traffic? And traffic is usually miserable for most people. And my general message is, well, wouldn't it be great that you stay in your car and everyone else gets on the train and bus? So I really related to the more people, you don't have to change your behavior, but wouldn't it be great if a lot of other people did? I've noticed that small business people, vans, delivery, people of that nature, tradespeople, they really like the fact that more people are on trains as well, because a lot of them can't do that. To World Pride, major event coming up for the whole region. It's really hard to tell how many people. It's like one day it's 1 million, one day it's 2 million. Doesn't really matter. It's going to be big. So we got everything from Shakira opening to probably the biggest parade the region has ever had. So we're geared up. We got some announcements coming out soon about service hours relation to that. But we are, Metro does special events. That's the best thing probably we do. So the staff is really geared up and ready for that. We are not too distant future going to be ready to announce our Tap Ride Go program for credit cards and debit cards on the system. So for infrequent travelers or visitors, just being able to tap your credit and debit card. So I don't have any breaking news date on that today, but
That will not be ready for World Pride, or might be.
I have no breaking date on that today, Senator,
Nice try.
but stay tuned. We will make sure that you're in the loop. Team is working 24/7 across 3 continents on that project, nonstop.
I'll just be super brief. People have said thank you in different ways, but I've been here now 5.5 years, and there were moments of 4 or 5 years ago, there were moments of strength and there are moments of struggle. Just a huge thank you, because the last 2.5 years, the moments have been 49 months is outstanding. 2 years in a row, the greatest in the country is amazing. And then the second comment, so you don't have to have a long question, is I'm in a space where I'm more worried about DC and Maryland in this moment for our future DMV moves. And I'll say it plainly, but I don't want to say it, if there are ways that we can be helpful in addition to Gate, then let us know, because I worry all the time about those for the next year. Those are the jurisdictions that for the first time in a long time, I'm at least as worried about as Virginia. So if we can be helpful in what we say or don't say or do in the appropriate ways on that, that is the future. That is where Mr. Alcorn's comments live. Whether we actually do something that 10 years from now, everyone in this room says, we feel fine. And so if we can help there,
Yeah, great comment. And I just want to say, all of our partners have been pretty united. Solved the big part of the operating rebaselining 2 years ago. Maryland was actually the first state that came through with that. I think you've seen comments from the mayor, is even recently as this week, that is, hey, Metro is what drives this region economy and specifically the district. And obviously everything from Governor Youngkin to the legislature and all of our local partners in Virginia. So I think the DMV moves process is really, so the more you interact with your Maryland and DC and other Virginia colleagues, and us all trying to get agreement on the problem statement and agreement on solutions. And if we can pull that off this fall, and really help influence the next legislative cycle, I think would be really valuable, because someone has to go first too, right? And I think that's the real message that all three aren't happening on the same day. And someone has to go first, and if Virginia is ready to lead first, that would be appreciated as well.
Thank you.
Supervisor Polcher.
I just wanted to say, one thing I mentioned before and really love, not just the improvements you've made, but the future focus on the automation. I have sort of a second family outside of Lille, France, and I was like, I know that's the first automated train I ever boarded and was shocked at how amazing it was. I just looked it up. They operate from 5 a.m. until midnight with trains every 1.5 to 4 minutes. And on the weekend, and this is not a huge, this is in Paris and it's great. This is a smaller jurisdiction, smaller city, and I'm just excited about, we're not there yet, but the future opportunities of how much more efficient and effective and cost effective it can be, and how we can really be that city of the future and the metro we deserve. Just thank you.
No, thank you. And I think we want to, with reauthorization coming up, administration and Congress, we want to highlight that opportunity as well. Paris just retrofitted a line from 1904, 1908, 85-second headways. Now we obviously don't need 85-second headways, right? Paris is a little bigger than us, but it goes to show you don't have to build something brand new. Retrofits are part of the process as well. More complex than brand new, but we're going to keep working on it. And there's so much more information and collaboration and strategy and so this to come.
Thank you.
So any other questions from commissioners? I just had 3 points to put on the record. First of all, the importance of communicating not only to our region, but to the nation about how our system allows you to enjoy the investment that you've made in federal government and national capital. I think that messaging for the future region and for the future of Metro may emerge as one of the most important things we can do. So never forget service that we're providing not only to visit here, but to exercise our First Amendment. So that would be communication. Bus fare evasion, still a big issue. Just to see how various steps that we're taking on that. And joint procurement, a lot of interest in Metro leading systems and really getting multiple value Metro VRE or local bus systems, how we can purchase together and save everybody money and improve efficiencies. And then finally, creating this world-class transit concept. I think we all get it here, but what are the components that people can say, yeah, that makes sense to me. That really is an improvement that I can see in my usage, but also an improvement in the overall service that Metro provides to the region. So those would be the only things that I wanted to add. Anyone have any other comments? Well, let me end by really expressing admiration for what you're doing. System. It's probably not an overstatement to say that future region rides on Metro. Maybe so previously. And so thank you very much. We couldn't ask a better question.
Thanks for having me.
You can stay for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah, okay. What's the next topic?
You will benefit.
Can you call my wife?
I'm sure you have good expertise on all the subject matter in front of us here.
You have great other expertise here.
Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you
Don't
all.
listen to me.
Thanks so much.
Good to meet you.
So good to meet you.
We would certainly be remiss to not Greg Potts. Greg and I from time to time have been future communications buddies and recently much less so, and I'm sure he's very pleased about that. So thank Greg especially as well. So we now turn it to further WMATA discussion to Committee Chairwoman Alcorn. Give us your review, please.
So no DMV news today, but I do want to turn it over to Senator Eben for a report on SJ 28.
Thank you, Chair Alcorn and Chair Snyder. The SJ 28 Joint Subcommittee met on Tuesday, April 22nd at MBTA headquarters in Fairfax to kick off our first of 4 meetings for this year. We had a good discussion about several key topics, including how any new future transit funding could be structured to meet the needs of our operators. We heard a really good panel with representatives from WMATA, VRE, OmniRide, and Dash, with each sharing their unique challenges facing the respective systems. I think it was real clear that each agency has unique needs, some more with operating funding in the near term, while others need capital funding in the long term. We're hoping to develop a solution that addresses the needs not just of WMATA, but of all the transit operators in Northern Virginia. And there is a summary graphic in your materials if you'd like more information on that topic. One of the key points I would like to highlight is that while DMV Moves is now focused on a capital funding solution, Virginia still has a need to find a permanent operating funding solution for the rebaselining of WMATA subsidy in fiscal year 2025. Northern Virginia localities in the Commonwealth made a 2-year commitment for to keep WMATA's operating budget in whole in fiscal years 25 and 26. And I'm confident their work will help identify a solution to address the needs for fiscal year 2027 and beyond. The joint subcommittee was scheduled to meet again here at MVTC in mid-June, and we just have some question about a conflict with another interim committee meeting. So there's a poll out to members just to confirm a date in that June 18th timeframe. And we'll be reviewing updated revenue estimates for sources that could be used to meet future transit needs. Then in September, we're going to finalize long-term transit needs or look to do that. And then in November, we'll look to adopt recommendations ahead of the 2026 General Assembly session.
Right, so let's keep going. If there are no immediate questions, I'd like to ask Kate, our Executive Director, to provide an update on TSDAC, which I can hardly say, also known as the Transit Service Delivery and Advisory Committee, and federal matters too.
Thank you, Mr. Alcorn. So as Director Robinson and I mentioned last month, the Department of Rail and Public Transit is going to be doing a re-examination of the Merit Transit Capital and Operating Programs during this calendar year. The first meeting actually to examine any changes is going to be coming up on May 15th. So we're going to be keeping an eye on what that is. We really still don't have a good sense of what the administration wants to do, but they are planning on moving through things this year. And again, just for context and reminder, the Merit program is both a formula-based operating program and then also a competitive capital program. It's provided to all of the transit operators in Virginia, with the exception of VRE and WMATA, and they have funding allocated a different way. So I'll be coming back and reporting over the course as we learn more with the potential opportunity of MVTC weighing in on any questions or concerns over the course of the process. And I did want to provide a little bit of a federal update, very narrowly focused on the public transit space. Earlier this week, I actually had the opportunity to participate in a discussion with other Washington, D.C. based transit policy professionals, really diving into sort of what's happening on the Hill. I know Joe Swartz was there with me to hear this. And so a couple of things I wanted to highlight are sort of happening in real time, but again, with the transit focus alone. So the focus on budget reconciliation is happening, of course, right now. And in the public transit space, the real concern there is about the competitive US DOT programs. Again, because those are ones that are not protected by the trust fund. So things like the Capital Investment Grants Program, which could be something that in the future, the Richmond BRT, for example, could apply for, or even what they call the Low-No program, which many of our jurisdictions have used to fund electric buses. Those are sort of in an area that is very risky when it comes to budget reconciliation. And so, because again, they're going to be running up against deficit limits. So those are things to be watching for in that reconciliation. But one of the things that was included in the most recent package is actually a new fee on electric and hybrid vehicles. They're proposing a $200 per vehicle for electrics, a $100 fee on hybrid. I understand this is annual, and a $20 fee on other passenger vehicles. Commercial fleet vehicles look like they'll be exempt, but we're not sure what that means for transit vehicles or even fleet vehicles your jurisdictions may have. But the other part of it, in terms of collecting revenues, there's a long history of revenues from the Highway Trust Fund, that at least 20% of those are actually go to the mass transit account of that. It's not clear whether these new revenues actually would go into that mass transit account. So this is something, again, the transit industry is watching. Now, when it comes to the reauthorization, I know Randy Clark made a mention of that. So the reauthorization of the IIJA is launching now. In particular, the House Transportation Infrastructure Committee have already started hearings on the topic, and they are planning to do a markup of that bill this fall, which is very fast. And so again, funding is going to be a fundamental issue of all of this, because we do have the Highway Trust Fund, which again, mass transit is part of, is not in a safe space when it comes to the sources of revenue for it. So there's going to be a lot of conversation about money, and it gets kind of caught up in all of the bigger conversation about budget. And then finally, the administration, so this is Secretary Duffy and the folks within the Federal Transit Administration, have made a formal ask of including in transit agencies on ways to streamline existing regulations and guidance that is being issued by USDOT. And so in the transit space, there does appear to be an opportunity to identify areas where transit projects could actually get some relief from some of the regulatory oversight that may be higher in transit projects than there is in highway projects. So that's an interesting dynamic. And again, and I think I mentioned this before, our membership in the American Public Transportation Association is really the way we are getting educated, and really the primary way that we can provide voice to that. Of course, we at NVTC don't operate any transit, but obviously folks like WMATA and others are adding to this conversation. So again, there's a lot of different things that are going on there, but rarely focused on the transit space. There's a lot of things that are moving. The APTA does have their legislative conference in just a couple of weeks here in DC. So we and the other transit professionals here are going to have a chance to learn more as these things move ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions for Senator Eben on SJ 28 or Executive Director or former Executive Director on TISDAC or federal updates?
Because this federal update,
Yes.
I mean, let's be incredibly realistic here. All right, Johnson is suggesting that they'll have reconciliation done by Memorial Day, which is laughable. Thune is not as enthusiastic about that date. Also, Secretary Besson's thinking July 4th is when you're gonna actually get reconciliation done. They don't have agreement internally with the Republicans right now, and they still don't have a specific idea where they're gonna make up the revenue losses, right? So everyone talking about, oh, we'll have money for this, money for that, they're still looking for pay for it to get themselves to a 15% corporate tax rate. On top of that, they just punted on the FY25 appropriations bills. That's insane. They're still working under a Biden budget. Okay? So the idea that we're gonna get a THUD reauthorization by this fall? You and I, that's insane. Right? And let's just be let's pie in the sky, okay? Because I doubt we'll get effect. If they're willing to punt on 25 for approps, there's definitely a chance they punt on 26 for approps, especially with the dynamic they have in the House right now. And so if they can't get there on approps, I doubt they can get anywhere with a transportation reauthorization that will do anything for transit. And I don't mean to be, negative Nelly here, but I wouldn't have used the word hopeful.
Oh, I said that they are hopeful. Just you and I.
I guess they shouldn't have used the word hopeful.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments? Thanks a lot. So next item is to hear from the program advisory committee.
Yeah, I was at public hearings at the time, but appreciate Sarah Bagley will be giving the update as she was the one chairing the meeting on my behalf.
Well, I was happy to help out and thank you, Chair Snyder. I'll report back to the group that on April 24th, the Program Advisory Committee and the Joint Commission Working Group met to discuss staff recommended I-395-95 commuter choice program projects, as well as received an update on the I-66 needs assessment, a joint study between NVTC and DRPT to examine a potential short and long-term investments that can be made along the I-66 corridor. NVTC Commuter Choice Program Manager Daniel Nickelbein is actually at PRTC meeting tonight, updating them on the staff recommended I-395-95 commuter choice FY 26-27 program or projects. So Director of Programs and Policy Andrew DeVetter will provide an update on both I-395-95 commuter choice program out of projects. I swear you guys put that in here as many times as you could. Program of projects, and the I-66 needs assessment. And
Absolutely, thank you. And Daniel did let me know that he has delivered his presentation already. PRTC, so we get to go after. And we can go to the next slide. So before I get to the full draft program of projects, I want to give a quick refresher on the I-395-95 commuter choice program. So more broadly, commuter choice began in 2017 as a program to reinvest locally generated toll revenue into funding for transit and other multimodal transportation projects on the I-66 corridor. It was expanded to the I-395-95 corridor in 2019. This program is a partnership between NVTC, PRTC, and the Commonwealth, with authority for NVTC to manage the program delegated from the Commonwealth Transportation Board. NVTC manages the day-to-day aspects of the program, but both commissions must approve the program of projects to transmit that program to the CTB. NVTC follows its role outlined in the Memorandum of Agreement by using the NVTC and PRTC process for selecting projects and evaluation criteria. Once the annual program of project is approved by both commissions, it's sent to the CTB for inclusion into the SIP. NVTC gets guaranteed annual payments to fund commuter choice projects from toll revenues generated from the I-395 and 95 express lanes. In 2025, NVTC will receive a payment of approximately 17 million, and that number escalates annually. In the three prior rounds, NVTC has awarded $90 million to I-395-95 projects. Next slide, Tiffany. So just a very quick recap of the program development process. So in December, the application period closed and NVTC received 15 applications. After an eligibility review, one application from Arlington County was deemed ineligible. List of eligible applications. Applications were then scored, and that was sent to applicants in February. And in March, there was a public comment period, which I'll talk about later. We held a public hearing, and as Commissioner Bagley mentioned, we previewed this program of projects with the Joint Commission Working Group on April 24th, who endorsed staff recommendation that is before you today. So today, that brings us to today in this process where both commissions are getting this briefing. And then next month, the commissions will be asked to take action to approve transmitting the program of projects to the CTB for inclusion in the SIP. The next slide. So this is a summary slide showing the draft program of projects as recommended by staff and endorsed by the Joint Commission Working Group. It's 15 projects across 6 grantees totaling $39.5 million. The program includes 13 operating projects, 9 of which are continuations, and it includes 2 capital. Taken together, it's estimated that these will result in nearly 3,800 weekday transit trips, result in 22 million fewer traveled, and save over $2.4 million in annual fuel costs. Next slide. So this is the first of 2 slides detailing the projects in the staff recommended program. It includes the proposed funding award and their application scores. Capital projects are shown in blue and operating projects are shown. So this cycle, Fairfax County's Richmond Highway BRT project will receive a second $10 million award. This is fulfilling a $20 million commitment to the project that was split across 2 funding awards, 2 funding rounds that was approved by the commissions in the prior award cycle. After an eligibility review, all eligible projects were scored to ensure they demonstrate the requisite benefits to toll payers. The most heavily weighted scoring metric in this process is person throughput, which is how efficiently a project would move people through the corridor. In addition, to that score, there's a cost effectiveness score, and some additional scores that are assigned, resulting in the scores you see on the right. If we go to the next, the next slide, this is the remaining projects that are in the draft program. The total proposal here is for $39.5 million. Just to further describe these, there's 12 enhanced bus service projects, 1 BRT line, 1 new bus route, and 1 rail station. The 15 projects that are on this list include all eligible applications that were submitted for funding. Given that these projects all provide benefits that were demonstrated during the evaluation process and are within the available amount of total. Next slide. MVTC held an online public comment period from March 12th to April 11th. Members of the public were able to submit comments via an survey email. 408 submissions were received. This comment period was advertised with social media posts and as well as video greetings in English and Spanish from Fact Chair Delegate Project. Staff also held a public hearing directly on April 24th to provide additional opportunities for members of the public to provide comments. At that hearing, 2 comments were made in support of the line 35 and line 36 projects. Next slide. This slide shows the upcoming dates in the program approval process. Today, both commissions are receiving the same briefing. On May 20th, the full Commonwealth Transportation Board will be briefed on the draft program, and on June 5th, both commissions will be asked to take action approving transmittal of that final program to the CTB, who would then take action on June 25th to make that final. So before we turn it over for questions, there's a few policy considerations for future 395-95 funding rounds that I do want to highlight. We anticipate that future funding rounds would be highly competitive and that limited funding would be available. So it's important to note that service enhancement projects must reapply for funding every 2 years. And the funding is not guaranteed beyond that 2-year cycle. And per the memorandum of agreement, commuter choice funding for operating projects cannot exceed 50% over a rolling 9-year average, which does create a need to strategically fund capital projects during that time period. And that concludes the presentation. I'm happy to take any questions, and I think it's up to the chair, but I can keep going on the 66 needs, and then we can have questions on both, or we can take them right now.
Any questions right now? Go ahead.
All right. Let's get very nice. So for 66 needs, there's no presentation. This is a verbal update on the I-66 needs assessment. This is a joint study with the RPT that examines the existing and future travel needs in the I-66 corridor, and that's both inside and outside the Beltway. There is a lot more information in your meeting packet, as well as a presentation that Community Choice Program Manager Daniel Lipkopine provided to the PAC on April 24th. So the goal of this needs assessment is to generate a pipeline of short and long-term investments that would support either the NVTC I-66 Community Choice Program, which goes inside the Beltway, and DRPT's I-66 outside the program, which focuses on outside the Beltway. So it's very much a joint study focusing on the needs of the entire corridor. These 2 programs are funded by prescribed amounts of toll revenue that escalates for decades, and both programs have opportunities to fund capital expansion as well as operating projects. It's important to work with our transit agencies and jurisdictions to develop that robust pipeline so that we can show benefit to toll payers and move more people through the corridor. Prior studies were completed in 2012 and 2020. This study will use the latest available data in a picture of what current and future travel looks like in the corridor so that we can select the best projects for future travel patterns. All of the data used in the recently completed existing and future conditions analysis portion of the study was taken in 2024. So that timing is what it is. We've seen travel patterns, especially with transit, dramatically changed since February 2025. And so we have decided at staff level to update that analysis using the most recent data, given the dramatic change in travel patterns in the region, especially for longer distance and more commuter-oriented routes. So we'll be working with our consultant team over the next few months to reanalyze those travel patterns and make sure that the study is up to date. The study team is looking at travel markets that aren't well served by transit and that can meet an unmet demand for new or enhanced service. The team has completed a round of stakeholder outreach with our cities and counties, as well as OmniRide, VRE, and WMATA to help gain insight on priorities on the corridor and how the needs assessment and the program can help support additional ridership in those corridors. So once we've updated the data with traffic counts and transit ridership from 2025, we'll do another round of outreach. It's important to note that while we are attempting to capture as many potential project ideas as possible, this needs assessment is not a requirement to apply for future rounds of commuter choice funding. Our agencies are welcome to develop new eligible application ideas at any time, and indeed, there will be this round this fall. So staff have a busy summer ahead of us as we update all of that data that I mentioned, refine the corridor needs, and continue to engage with our stakeholders. We're continuing to have conversations about that data update and hope to have that soon this summer. We are also looking at potential policy changes to one or both funding programs that could be made to better support the recommendations included in the final draft study. We'll continue to keep the commission updated on this effort, primarily through the PAC. We anticipate bringing a draft needs assessment for commission review in fall or winter. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
You don't have any questions for either of those presentations?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I do have a quick one. Thank you for the update. The reanalysis never sounds generally great, but the decision seems like a really sound one in this case.
Yep.
So just a big thank you on that. On the I-60, you mentioned person throughput as our analysis. On the I-395, I probably could use a little, as I was looking through this part of the packet. On I-66, I could probably use a little bit of an update. I think that our approach, that NVTC's approach tends to continue to be for I-66 also person throughput, but I could use probably a little bit of an education. VDOT is inside the Beltway. Some might ask just for person or car throughput and how that works. So just wanted to flag that I'll probably be asking for a little briefing if I can, because there's general DMV moves, and then this is something where I want to just engage a little bit more for our needs. So thank you.
Absolutely, and I'll add that part of this study will have a lot of robust kind of graphics describing those corridor travel trends, both vehicular and transit. The shift in the data was just so significant that we want to make sure we want to make sure that what we provide, hopefully this later this year to the commission, is the most robust. So we'll work diligently to get that to you.
Never been so excited about reanalysis.
Thank you. So Andrew, you mentioned something about escalation over the coming decades.
Yeah.
Is that revenue, is that tolls, or is it both?
That's so there's some the agreements have depending on which ones they are, they have specific like 2.5% as much additional funding, and it escalates each year. So it's the revenue rates.
Right. So not talking about toll rates.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, that wasn't clear. Thank you.
Seems like an important.
Only depends on how many cars are out there.
Any other questions? I do have one. I hope the needs of inside the Beltway trips and jurisdictions are considered, that this doesn't, that the outside the Beltway doesn't swallow up the entire discussion of the corridor. Trips originate and within the corridor, there's a real issue. No, let me just put it there, that the needs of jurisdictions outside the building, as well as those inside the building, should be considered.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Any other comments from commissioners? Okay, thanks for your presentation, for your work, and you said you'll have a busy summer. We're all well. Next, Virginia Railway Express, CEO Rich Dalton. Rich.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, commission members. Had a couple things to do tonight, so let me just be concise with the CEO report. You do have that in your packet. Just want to report on the reliability front for the month of April. Of course, seeing some additional congestion out there. We had some weather related issues out there as well. So we unaudited. We dropped a little bit from our previous month to around 80%. Maybe after it's audited, it might be a little bit lower, a little bit higher. On the ridership front, I reported last month that our March ridership was about 105% above what we saw in January. April ridership was about 131% higher than what we saw in January, and we continue to see that uptick. So I will say on that front, I've been asked, to provide information about just the, some comparison ridership mix levels, that type of stuff, both at the PRTC Commission and from the Operations Board. And that'll be forthcoming just to do some comparison, just see how things are balancing out. So I just want to be a little cautious on that, to put information out there and get settled in on that when we still see things changing right now. So that is my report, Mr. Chair.
Thanks very much. Any questions for Rich? Okay, not seeing any. DRE Operations Board Chair, Sarah.
All right, we have a few action items tonight. Action item 8B, the commission's being asked to approve the resolution number 2558. It authorizes the VRE CEO to execute a memorandum of understanding with the Amtrak District Department of Transportation, the Maryland Department of Transportation, the Maryland Transit Administration, the Union Station Redevelopment Corporation, and the Virginia Passenger Rail Authority regarding Washington area rail coordination. The MOU sets out the terms, structure, and goals under which the signatory organizations agree to cooperate on regional rail coordination efforts related to rail infrastructure and VRE MARC and Amtrak service. The MOU establishes a Capital Region Rail Coordinating Committee to guide the coordination efforts. These entities have been meeting informally on a regular basis over the past several years to coordinate system and service plans. The MOU formalizes that coordination process. It is anticipated that better coordination, planning, communication, and shared investments through the actions of the committee will lead to improved development and delivery of projects, which will benefit the region's rail system and may result in increased opportunities to secure federal and other funding for necessary improvements to Washington Union Station and other regional priority projects. And I'll just add that we had a robust discussion actually on this topic at the Ops Board. Just to give context, I think several of us sort of assumed this was already in place, and we're sort of interested in and supportive that it was being formalized and sort of being reduced to paper and signatures.
Thank you. Any questions? I have a motion to approve resolution number 2559.
So moved.
Authorize the VRE CEO to execute a memorandum of understanding regarding Washington area rail coordination.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Any discussion? Okay, not seeing any. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. That item passes unanimously. So next.
All right, for action item 8C, the commission's being asked to approve resolution 2559 to approve use of the construction manager general contractor delivery method for the Longmont Station and Fourth Track project. This approval will enable VRE to advance efforts to prepare required procurement documents, including a request for qualifications and a request for proposals for this project. More information about this action is in your meeting materials. Before we move to vote, I'd also like to draw your attention to the two written reports in the VRE meeting materials. 8D is an update on the Alexandria Station improvements, King Street and Commonwealth Avenue Bridge Replacement Project. And 8E is the VRE staff presentation to the Operations Board Finance Committee on the relationship between SJ28 and the draft VRE System Plan 2050. Just a reminder that the system plan will be coming back to the Commission for action in the near future.
Does anyone have any questions or comments?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Can you tell us what this new contract, because there's the inside DC one's already being constructed and you have a contractor for the bridge itself now, Long Bridge, and then Is this the one on the Virginia side?
Mr. Chair, yeah, so this is actually on the DC side.
Okay.
This project picks up the very northern limits of the Long Bridge North project. We'll pick that up and complete the fourth track project of that, but within that fourth track project, the VRE Lafont Station will be enhanced and modernized, so it's truly a team effort here.
Mr. Chairman, how much is this contract worth? Yeah, just roughly.
The total project?
No, just this contract here.
So this here is, all you're doing is giving us authorization to go proceed with the solicitation process for this project.
Okay, so how much do you think it's gonna cost?
Nice try.
So this process will also develop independent cost estimates for the project specifically.
Is it like 200 million, 300 million, 100 million, or $1 billion?
We currently have this project in our capital improvement project. The total project value is about 130 million.
Okay. Wow. Thank you.
Is that, let me follow up with a question, is 130 million just the Virginia portion of this, or is that the total project?
Be the total project cost for the Lafont Station and the adjacent fourth track project. Or just that segment that I described that's north of the existing Long Bridge project.
Okay, is that 100% funded by VRE in Virginia, or is that there are money being kicked in?
So right now in our capital improvement project, in our CIP budget, there's as we do at VRE, there's a myriad of, you know, state, federal, sources to that. I will say that it also still shows an amount that's unfunded, but somewhat intentionally, we need to get through the process for the CMGC contract to actually be able to take it more from a concept to an actual design. So we have good estimates, if you will, to seek the additional funding. If that helps answer that question.
So on the projects that's just south of that's on the DC side, how's that going?
From my perspective, they're actually, and I don't speak directly for VPRA, but they're actually going pretty well. I mean, in terms of there's early works going on out there in the, you know, in the right of way, utility relocations, borings, all that type of stuff. On not just the fourth track project, which is Alexandria to the, you know, through RO or through the south bank of the Potomac, but even for the other two projects, which is the Long Bridge itself and Long Bridge North, they're all segregated into to different projects. So,
but you think it's on time? We're still 20.
Still early, but they're meeting their immediate targets. But the next, obviously, the next couple of years will be real telling when they get out there and actually start pouring some concrete and stuff.
Mr. Chairman, one final question. My final question is, some meeting I was at recently, the pedestrian bridge was threatened by somebody or people were worried about it, but you don't think that's true?
I have not heard any indication that project is.
That's the most popular part of this project.
I think it's equally popular as the rail bridge.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Great questions. Any other questions or comments on this one?
Mr. Chair, I'll just note again, what you're voting on tonight is simply the methodology and not the actual cost. And there was a slide that we were shown at the ops level that sort of showed the potential benefits of the phasing in this approach. It hopefully, if all goes to plan, it produces a project slightly faster than it would have in the traditional model. So that's the gist of what this vote is to me.
Okay, thanks. So I entertain a motion to approve resolution number 2560.
So moved.
Use of the construction manager general contractor delivery method, multi station and fourth track project. Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed, any abstentions? That item passes unanimously. I'll recognize Sarah again, so.
Thank you, sir. As Chair of the Virginia Railways Express, we want to take a few moments tonight to honor a true champion of public transportation as he prepares to retire. Steve McIsaac, currently VRE's General Counsel and Chief Legal Officer, and I'll note also VTC's long service. He spent 4 decades working tirelessly to support the creation, expansion, and funding of public transportation within the greater Northern Virginia region. I'd like to note that Mr. McIsaac has also been instrumental as NVTC's legal counsel over many of these years. Delegate Paul Krizek is here tonight, and he recently patroned a House of Delegates resolution in honor of Mr. McIsaac's service. I'd like to invite Delegate Krizek and Mr. McIsaac up to the front to present Steve with the resolution.
We also invite delegates Lopez, Reed, and Sickles who co-patroned this with me, and our 2 senators, Senator Evan and.
They're gonna pass their resolution next year.
The Senate's always.
I would make a good picture here.
Oh, no.
I got to look to the right.
And you can go ahead and speak if you want while you do this.
So, congratulations, 40 years. That's a long time. I'm a general counsel, so I know exactly what you go through. Multiply that by a lot more. Your job is much more difficult. But really, yeah, it's all about putting out fires before they start. That is the trick, right? But this I won't read the whole resolution, but there's a few things I want to point out. And this has your whole history. I mean, it's really very well researched. And it starts back in 1985 when you were helping to establish Virginia Railway Express. And in 86, the founding of the Potomac Rappahannock Transportation Commission. And it goes through, but I think what's important, and then it gets all the way up to your biggest, your most recent success really, that we all know about in the public, and that is the negotiations between the Commonwealth and Norfolk Southern Railway for the purchase of the Manassas line. And that's a big, we're very happy with that. Well, that's about 100 whereases. We get to the resolve by the House of Delegates that Steve McIsaac hereby be commended for his 40 years of dedicated service to the people of Virginia to ensure their access to safe, reliable, and convenient public transportation. So congratulations. Thank you from all of us at the General. Members of MVPC were the patrons together. Thank you very much.
So you can make a speech right now.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. No, I very much appreciate the recognition. I will tell you that I was given a little bit of forewarning about this, and as much as I appreciate this kind of commendation, I was told it was going to be a fun.
That's get you out of jail.
No, I know the hour's late, and I'm not going to belabor this. I will say that while I may not have intended this, my entire career ended up being as a public servant. And as all of you know, as public servants, and I have to include among public servants here, obviously the elected folks, but there are the appointed people, and then the employed people. We're all public servants, and we know what that's like, being down in the trenches, trying to get things done. There's never been a silver bullet to accomplish some really lasting, significant public good. It has to be done really in the dark, working tirelessly in obscurity, basically, to get these little building blocks put together that eventually over the years come together and really come up with a substantial, significant public good. And I'm pleased to have been part of that. It's been my privilege to work with a number of very excellent public servants, some of which are in the room right now. And I will say that the rewards of public service are what they are, tremendous.
And as I look back, I like to think that I had some contributions, however small, to accomplishing really big things. It's been a true pleasure. So thank you very much. Oh. Darren. Congratulations. Thanks. Appreciate it. Okay, next item on the agenda is the Department of Rail and Public Transportation. Nothing with us tonight, and she sent her regrets. If commissioners have any questions, rather Jen, myself, T is in the audience, he says here. So much. This could be a very short time up here today. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I had 9 questions.
Excellent report.
Okay, well, you're pretty. Free to go. Thanks very much, and I do know you have such a demographic, it means a lot to my team. Director Tiffany Robinson has been fantastic. You've been very lucky to have quite a succession of great leadership. So thank you for the work on the path to that public. Next is the executive director report. Case.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So in addition to our latest main newsletter for you, we actually have 2 fantastic little, I don't know what we call them, cheat sheets, but there's some incredible resources that I know that many folks are excited to have, which is an overview of our transit funding guide, which is also an interactive online portal as well. But we wanted to give you as a little handout, little cheat sheet. And sort of the second part of it, which many people get excited about, is how Metro is funded in Virginia. So again, these are available online, novatransit.org, as well as there's QR codes on here. We wanted to give you guys something to maybe throw into your folders, so you always have them. And you can become as expert as the NVTC staff are who created these. And a huge shout out to Sophie and others who participated. Can't quite see her in the crowd. There she is, Sophie, Ann, Adam, and others who had a big role in putting these together. So those are for all of you. Just a reminder, our next meetings that are coming up on May 29th, we have a virtual joint WMATA and legislative committee meeting at 6 p.m. So I'll be online. Our next commission meeting is going to be June 5th or 6th. Somehow it is 5th. Somehow I thought it was the 6th. I just off on the date, but it's the first Thursday here at 7 o'clock. And also just looking ahead a little bit into June, Department Advisory Committee is going to be meeting on Wednesday, June 18th at 4:30. And we actually are planning on having a WMATA and Ledge meeting immediately after that. Financial reports as usual are included in here, but that concludes my report. Sure.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Kate? I'm not seeing any. Does anybody have anything else that they'd like to bring forward the group tonight? Okay, nothing, and on the motion we adjourn. No silence to do that.